Hey everyone, I'm in a bit of a different setup today. I painted a wall, which was actually surprisingly entertaining, and I'm sitting at a desk. It feels weird. It's going to change. This is a prop desk we used for a short film because I basically have no furniture in my house still. And I bought a plant because I really like plants, but it feels wrong. But we're just going to roll with it for today. Today, I'm going to talk about microphones. Now, let's just get this out of the way up front. I am of the opinion that expensive mics may not necessarily be worth it. And before anyone comes at me to tell me that I'm wrong or misinformed, let me at least justify my position and tell you why. I'm Tash. If you don't know me, I'm a full-time actress and voiceover artist. I have been doing this and working with various microphones for quite some time now. And the one question that never goes out of style in the VO world is, what mic do you have? Voice actors can spend hours talking about it now that home studios are all the rage. And quite frankly, I think sometimes it is a waste of time thinking about it as much as we do. For beginners, one of the most overwhelming things to do is try to find the right mic. It can be paralyzing and it can be very difficult when everyone is recommending different things and you likely can't hear any major differences between them because if you are just starting out, you probably don't have very attuned ears yet. Don't worry though, we've all been there. I know I've certainly spent far too long debating which mic to upgrade to or buy. And now I have one of, if not two of, the most well-regarded industry standard voiceover mics. And I'm actually wondering if it was worth it. So today I want to give you a little nugget of wisdom that I learned spending way too much money. And that nugget of wisdom is, you don't need an expensive mic to succeed in the voiceover world. But before I dive in any further, I should probably define what I mean by expensive because there is a huge range when it comes to microphone prices. In terms of microphones, anything under $150 is really a budget mic. And usually, the only mic you can get for under this amount of money is a USB mic. The $150 to $500 US dollar range is a solid midpoint. In this video, anything over $500 is what I'm referring to as expensive. And I understand that $500 is not exactly cheap, but in terms of microphones, the $150 to $500 range is definitely on the budget side of things. You can easily spend $1,000 to $10,000 US dollars on a high-end mic if you wanted to. So why do I think expensive mics aren't worth the hype? Reason number one, think about the medium. When we produce audio, we are producing it for a particular purpose. Going on YouTube, Spotify, TV, radio, cinema, there is a reason we are producing this particular audio. If you think about this in the context of films, they often release various versions of the same film because one has to be tailored for big screen cinema, one has to be tailored for this particular streaming service, one has to be tailored for airlines. You'll often see at the start of a movie on airlines, it'll say, this film has been adapted to fit this screen and this airline. They tailor to the platform. We have to do the same thing with voiceover. And yes, voiceover could be going anywhere. TV, cinema, all those things. It could be going anywhere, but the bulk of it, especially if you were a beginner, will probably be going online or somewhere that people are going to listen back to it using their phone, their laptop, their computer, any of those things, a tablet. As a beginner, you're probably going to be doing the jobs that end up on those platforms. So corporate videos, indie gaming, small internet commercials, those sorts of things, audiobooks. There is a lot of voiceover work where people will be watching or listening to it on those devices. The reason this is important is because speakers reproduce sound in a certain way. They have a cone inside them that essentially moves back and forth really, really quickly and hits the air particles. And that is how sound is reproduced, because sound is just a collection of moving particles. And the bigger the speaker, the more, usually, bigger speakers can reproduce sound more accurately, especially bass frequencies. So if you've got devices that people are listening on, little earbuds, headphones, phones, tablets, the speakers on those, These devices are tiny. The speakers have to be tiny to fit inside them. I'm not saying tiny speakers are less good, because you can get some $1,000 custom built earbud headphones that audio engineers will sometimes use that are very, very good. But most of the time, the speakers in these devices reproduce sound less accurately than, if you went to the cinema. That's why when you go to the cinema, if you watch the same film in cinema versus on your laptop, it's going to sound different. The point I'm making is, if we spend $3,000 on a microphone and all the work we're doing gets listened to through phones, laptops, all these devices with tiny, less good speakers, arguably we didn't need to spend that much on the microphone in the first place, because even though it's capturing our voice really transparently and accurately, it's not being reproduced in that way when the end viewer, listener hears it. Reason number 2, there aren't actually many people in the world who would have ears so attuned that they could pick up what mic you were recording on, or could even hear the differences between certain XLR mics at all. I know I couldn't. The Bureau of Labor Statistics in the USA estimates that around 69,000 people in the USA are audio engineers. That's around 0.02% of the entire US population. Most other people would have no idea. A lot of them probably wouldn't even know the difference between a USB and an XLR microphone. As long as the audio is clear and understandable and there's no noise, you're fine. Most of which has more to do with your recording environment than your microphone anyway. As an example, let's take cameramen or DOPs. There are some people I know that have camera kits with all the bells and whistles, high-end red cameras, cine lenses, the whole shebang. And their footage is very average. But there are other people I know who have decent consumer-grade mirrorless cameras, a small Sony thing or whatever, a Canon. And the footage they produce, it looks like it just strolled right off a Nolan film. Why? Because they learned how to light. They learned how to shape the image. They got really resourceful and didn't just rely on their tools to get a result. They were crafty as Same deal with audio. If you spend your time learning about sound and making your recording space flawless, that is going to do way more for you for your sound than purchasing an expensive mic. Reason number 3, off the back of what we just talked about, the other equipment you have is also going to shape your sound. Think about what your mic is plugged into. An audio interface, maybe I've got mine plugged into a dedicated preamp. Every part of that signal chain will affect your sound. Your recording space, your mic, your XLR cable, your preamp, your audio interface. You get the point. Every piece of equipment can affect your sound. A $3,000 mic plugged into a bad audio interface won't suddenly produce great sound. Yes, the mic does play a huge part in your sound quality, but it's very much not the only part. So if you spend all of your money on a mic and don't focus on the other parts of it as well, it really is just a waste of money. Reason number 4, post-processing exists. Now, I don't encourage doing a lot of post-processing work. The aim should be, I think, to capture the best audio you can when you are recording, not have to fix it or change it after. There is a joke that runs around on film sets and they say, we'll fix it in post, meaning the editor will have to deal with it later. And it is a joke for a reason, because they don't want to be doing that. They do not want to make the editor's life that difficult. They will reassess what they are doing and do something different to avoid that problem. But that being said, it is entirely possible to edit audio to make it sound like it was recorded on a different microphone or using a different preamp. EQ specifically can go a long way in helping to match differences in mic sound. This is not something necessarily that I've experimented with, but I have seen a handful of audio engineers do it when they don't have the exact audio equipment they wanted to work with. Reason number 5, it's graph time, the law of diminishing returns. This graph is golden. Sometimes you just have to crack out a chart. It's an economics concept. You've got total output on the y-axis, which for us represents the overall quality of the audio. And then on the x-axis along the bottom, you've got total input, which would be the cost of the mic we're using. And what you can see is as the cost of the mic goes up, Initially, we see a sharp rise in sound quality, but it gets to a point where the more you spend, the less additional benefit you get. Usually on these graphs, it even gets to a point where you spend so much money that the audio quality goes down. I don't think that necessarily applies to this situation. It's more likely just to completely flatten out at the high end. So you spend infinitely more money, but the sound quality will just be the same, or it will sound different, but it will still be good. Point being, you are going to notice the most difference to your audio at the lower end of spending. There is a huge jump from USB mics to XLR mics. But once you get above that $500 in mic spend, you're probably not going to notice a massive change in sound quality. Going from a $100 mic to a $500 mic will be noticeable, but going from a $1,000 mic to a $3,000 mic usually is not going to be as earth-shattering, just wallet-shattering. And finally, reason number 6. We're voiceover artists. We're audio engineers because of the rise of home studios, so we've had to add that skill to our arsenal, but a lot of the time we're not qualified audio engineers, and that's not what we're selling. It's just a bonus we give people. What we do is we talk, we act, we bring words to life, and a mastery of those skills will serve you way more than a high-end microphone ever will. I know people that earn 6 figures and work on a Rode NT1. It's $200-ish mic, and I think it's a pretty good one. I earned my first 6 figures on a $260 mic, albeit it was a poor choice of mic because it has a very high level of self-noise, but it got me going. When I upgraded the first time, I went from that mic to one that's worth about $1,000. I noticed a huge difference, but mainly because I wasn't getting the same level of self-noise that I was in the first mic. But when I went from the $1,000 one to a $3,000 one, my audio sounded a bit different. I didn't book more, nothing changed, except I had less money. I also know, quick story, I was speaking to an audio engineer at one point, and the Neumann U87AI is a very stock standard. If you go into a voiceover studio, you will probably have spoken into one of these at some point. And they'd sent all theirs off for servicing. So what they did was, for a week or so, they replaced it with the Rode NT1 microphone in their professional studio. When the Neumanns came back, they forgot to put them back into the studios. They were recording on that Rode NT1 for about a month and nobody noticed. The clients didn't notice. The audio engineers didn't notice. Nobody noticed. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I needed to upgrade my mic, it's going to help me book more work, I'm here to tell you there is a 99% chance it won't. If your sound quality is bad, getting a new mic is just going to enhance the badness of it, most likely. You need to focus on treating your space. If you're not booking more work, it may well be something to do with the craft, and you need to actually go back, train, listen to what the industry you're trying to get into, see what people are doing and learn, improve in that aspect. Or it might well be because you're just not marketing and nobody can find you. If you haven't focused on those 3 things and you're just thinking, oh, a new mic will definitely help, that's not your first port of call. So that's my reasoning. Now you can come at me if you would like. I'm actually always up for a debate or learning new things as long as it's polite and respectful. So if you've got any opinions, ideas, if you disagree, I'd love to hear about it and get your opinions down in the comments, wherever they may be, somewhere around here. I want to be clear, I'm not saying having a high-end mic is bad. I have 2 of them. I'm saying that I don't believe it is necessary, and as a beginner, it is usually not the thing that is going to help you book more work. Your focus very much should be on the craft, not the mic. If you've got decent sound quality, you're good. I'll put it this way. If you are good at what you do, you can book work without having a high-end mic. If you have a high-end mic, but you are bad at what you do, you won't book work. The mic is not what you are selling. The voice, the craft, the acting, the talking, that is what you are selling. And yes, you do want that to come with good quality audio, but the mic is not the only thing that is going to get you that. If you're still with me at this point, thank you for sticking it out. Hopefully this has given you some peace of mind, some clarity, or whatever it is you wanted to find watching this video. Hopefully you found it. If you've got any other questions about a voiceover or acting or my plant anything, let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to make more videos. And last note, if you are trying to get into voiceover or you've got your feet wet and you want to book more work, I have put together the most comprehensive course out there covering all of this stuff in an insane amount of detail to give you a blueprint to build that sort of business for yourself. Because it can be a confusing world and a lot of the information is out there but costs an extraordinary amount of money from various different sources. So I put it together in a much more affordable package. The business, the legal side of things, because that's getting more and more important, the craft, the performance aspects, marketing, all of that stuff is in there. I worked on it for 2 years to make sure that it had everything in it. Anyway, point being, link in the description.